like my metaphor for him is that obnoxious guy at all the little league games that's yelling at the umpire, that's yelling at his kid, that's yelling at the other players.
I'm Russ Milhem from The Direct. Thank you so much for talking to me today about the movie.
My pleasure.
You know, I saw it, and it's great. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
First question for you. Lord Grigon, you know, quite literally, has a hard shell around him at all times,
yes,
shielding himself from kind of revealing that more sensitive and fragile side, which is like a through line, a thematic through line for his entire people. Knowing that, how did you incorporate that element into your performance and who this guy puts himself on to be?
Wow, that is a good question. I think I had that shell a great part during my childhood. That's how I kind of related to Elio, because I was that kid that was definitely not in the groups, you know, definitely a loner, bullied. And I think if you don't work it out and figure that out later in life, you become a Grigon. You got this shell, you make people pay for it, you're villainous. So it's kind of like the before and after when I see how they relate to each other. And what was great is Elio was able to get Grigon to maybe a place he's never been, especially as a father, right?
I also find it really interesting that Elio is, you know, kind of putting on his own metaphorical shell and, you know, worming his way into these aliens and kind of putting on his own story to get to this place. And, you know, despite Grigon being the villain, can you talk about his similarities with Elio, our protagonist? You know, despite them looking completely different, but they're doing similar things with how they're hiding things.
Well, you know, we all hide in various ways. You know what I mean? Some become aggressive and unapproachable, and others become unapproachable to themselves. You know, it seems to be that they're both not really authentic to who they want to be. And I think that's what they share. They're both unique, one for good, one for evil. But I think when it comes down to it, it all comes down to the purpose and the goodness that people can possess when they find it, when they achieve it.
Going back and rewatching that first teaser for the film, it teases an incredibly different film than what we end up getting in this final product. And at one point, it does seem like your character is almost an ally to Elio in that original version. Mm-hmm. What do you remember about that, and how did your character change and evolve from what it was to what it came to in this final?
Well, they really felt that Glorden was a better ally, who was obviously Grigon's son. And I kind of agree with that too. If we started off where Grigon was an ally out the gate, it really affects the stakes of the movie and the drama of the movie. So they wanted, I think, my character to be something that was more of a challenge for Elio and more of a challenge for Grigon. When he started to be friends with Glorden, that just started to feel more of a natural.
Last question for you. I thought it was also really intriguing to see how this movie kind of explored the topic of parental and really generational expectations that we put on people and how that affects someone. How would you say Elio explores those themes in a unique and fresh way and to the perfect audience to receive that message?
Well, you know, Grigon, like my metaphor for him is that obnoxious guy at all the little league games that's yelling at the umpire, that's yelling at his kid, that's yelling at the other players. And I think that as Elio tries to navigate who he is and find out where he belongs, there is a truth, I think, that accompanies it, where he is able to call people out on their shortcomings, if you will, as he's trying to discover really who he is. And I think Grigon, because of his relationship with Glorden, you know, gave him the perfect opportunity.